Hang on, let her get back here. All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Government, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee. I'm Senator Tom Brewer from the 43rd Legislative District, and I'm the chair of this committee. The committee will take up bills today in the order posted on the agenda. Actually, we're doing appointments today. Our hearing today is your public part of the legislative process. This is your opportunity to express your position on legislation or appointments that are before us. The committee members might come and go during the hearing. It's just part of the process. They have bills to present in other committees. I ask that you abide by the following rules to better facilitate today's meeting. Please silence or turn off any phones or electronic devices that you might have. Please move to the reserved chairs when you're ready to testify. These are the chairs in the first two rows. We won't worry about a complicated process of moving chairs because I don't think we have enough people to worry about it. All right. Normally, it would be the introducing senator. Today, it'll simply be the individuals that are receiving appointment that will come up and speak. If you do want to speak on behalf or for, against, or neutral on any of the appointees today, please pick up a green sign-in sheet, fill it out completely, which would include the phone number clearly so we can read it. Some have asked about phone number, added just simply so if there's a question about your testimony, they can call and make sure they get it correct. We're not selling your numbers. All right. There will also be available a white sheet if you want to just record the fact that you were here for the hearing today, and you can also on that indicate whether you for, against, or in neutral. If you have handouts, we will need 10 copies of them. If you don't have 10 copies, let us know. We'll have a page assist in making some copies. If you've come here to testify, we ask that you please speak clearly into the microphone. Tell us your name, then spell your name first and last. We'll be using the light system here. 5 minutes. The appointees, we will simply take as long as we need to gruel you and ask questions, so don't worry about that. We ask that no displays of support or opposition for the bill, vocal or otherwise, will be allowed. Understand that's for the folks in the crowd, not the individual who might be in the chair. Committee members with us today will introduce themselves, starting on my right with Senator Conrad.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Danielle Conrad from North Lincoln.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jane Raybould, Legislative District 28 from Lincoln Central Hart.
Good afternoon. Rita Sanders, representing District 45, which is the Bellevue-Offutt community.
John Lowe, District 37, Kearney, Gibbon, and Shelton.
Senator Sanders is the vice chair. Dick Clark is the legal counsel. Julie Conham is the committee clerk. And this afternoon we have Logan and Audrey. Yes, we do. Just double checking there. All right, and we'll go ahead and jump into our appointments for today. And first up is Andrew. Come on up. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and just start sharing information with us.
Thank you, Chairman Brewer and members of the committee. My name is Andrew Roos. I'm a resident of Elkhorn, Nebraska, a graduate of Hillsdale College, and a proud constituent of your colleague, Senator Linehan. And I'm honored to be here today as an appointee to the Nebraska Accountability and Disclosure Commission because the state and its people mean the world to me. I'm grateful to raise my family here with my wife, Alex, our daughter, Lincoln, our son, Clive, and God willing, another son or daughter that we're currently pursuing through adoption. I'm grateful to own and operate my own business here, PinAv Strategies, a communications and writing firm, as well as to work with some incredible clients across the state. And now I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve Nebraska and the people who live here. I spent much of my career serving in government in our nation's capital. I saw firsthand how crucial transparency and accountability were to ensuring our freedoms, expanding our prosperity, and encouraging our happiness as Americans. Now, I hope to help promote good government as part of the Nebraska Accountability and Disclosure Commission. Every Nebraskan deserves equal protection under the law, no matter who they are or where they come from. And as a member of the commission, I will always do my best to uphold the law as it is written and to work with the whole of government as appropriate to ensure that justice is done. I appreciate your consideration today, and I look forward to answering any questions, assuming they're not too tough and I know the answer.
All right. Well, glad you set the standard there. Okay, let's go ahead and see what questions we have for you from the committee. All right.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
No, I
after you.
prefer.
After you.
Ladies
Ladies
go
first.
Okay.
ahead. Senator Conrad.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So thank you, Chairman Brewer. It was so nice to connect just a few minutes before your hearing here today, Andrew. Or let me make sure. Roos?
Roos, just like
Roos.
Dr. Seuss.
Got it.
Yes,
Seuss,
ma'am.
Roos. Got it. Okay. I just very briefly had a chance to look over some of the materials and information that you provided in support of your gubernatorial appointment and for the committee to consider at this confirmation hearing. And I really appreciate all citizens' commitment to public service in, working in various levels of government to assist with key public policy issues, do constituency work. I think that is an incredible learning experience, and I think it's incredibly patriotic. And I really admire the staff that serve across our state and across the political spectrum 100%. That being said, we have always prided ourselves at the Nebraska Accountability and Disclosure Commission with taking a fiercely nonpartisan approach to their important work, because they need to have the confidence and the credibility for all citizens and all office holders across the political spectrum. And I'm happy to continue the conversation later if you didn't have a time to gather your thoughts in this regard yet. But I am trying to get a better understanding of how the lens that you bring into your work will fit that nonpartisan mold. And I know that we specifically choose people based on their partisanship to ensure balance in the commissioners. But I know that many of the people who've served as Democrats, as Republicans, as independents have really taken those party hats off when they're doing that commissioner work. And I know that, we see an increased level of partisanship in this institution. And when you've been working on the federal level, I mean, that's like the big leagues of partisanship for a lot of different reasons. So can you just help me understand a little bit more about that? Because it would definitely bring some skepticism for me to have any appointee to the commission, regardless if they were a Democratic operative or if they were a Republican operative or a Libertarian operative, to be kind of in that really important role. So just wanted to put that on the table.
Sure. No, and it's a great question, Senator Conrad, and definitely appreciate that. A lot of the folks that I've worked for and worked with in my career have had an R behind their name. A lot of them have had a D behind their name and an I behind their name. I spent a number of years working in the Department of Justice. Some of the most brilliant lawyers and legal minds that I ever worked with did not share political philosophy with the folks that I wrote speeches for. They did their job and they administered the law regardless of their own political philosophy. And that's the luxury that I would find myself in the position of if I were to be able to be part of this commission. You all write the laws. It's our job just to administer them as written. And we get to set aside our own political differences or political thoughts, and we get to administer exactly how you write the laws. So I would approach the work with that same philosophy in mind. And I've seen that the council has done that, the commission has done that in the one meeting that I was able to attend last month, and hope that I'd be able to do the same.
Great. And, I was looking at the list of current commissioners and I see, incredible colleagues that I had a chance to serve with, Senator Kate Sullivan, Senator Tom Carlson, really different approaches in terms of their political perspective, but incredible friends and great an incredible public servants who I think take their work equally seriously and with a similar lens. So I really appreciate your responsiveness in that regard. You did mention, are you still working as a speechwriter? Do you still do that kind of work?
I run my own communication shop.
Okay. Do
Correct.
you presently or plan to have any clients that would be under the jurisdiction of the Nebraska Accountability and Disclosure Act? I was just trying to think through if there would be any sort of, potential conflicts with clients that you were working with on political endeavors that might be, come before the commission if they had a campaign issue or whatever, or something.
Currently, I do not write for or work with any political candidates.
Okay.
And certainly at any point in the future, if there were anything that appeared to be a conflict of interest, I would work with the staff at the commission to make sure to remove myself from any consideration that had that.
All right, very good. And then I also noted, and I don't need to go into a lot of detail about it, but you also work in philanthropy a bit.
Yes.
And I know that those worlds, the political and philanthropic worlds, frequently intersect in a lot of different ways. Is that work centered in Nebraska as well, or is it broader than
All over the
beyond
country.
our borders?
All over the country.
Okay.
Very lucky to work with a lot of groups, doing some incredible work. Some in Nebraska, but really all over the country.
Okay, and that's really also more on the communication side of
Correct.
things?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that'll do it for now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, any additional questions? Senator Rabel.
Yes, thank you for your willingness to serve. I have to tell you, out of all the agencies in the state of Nebraska, I love the Nebraska Accountability and Disclosure Commission. And Director Frank Daly is exemplary. And I've been in political campaigns and an elected official for 12 years. I can't tell you how grateful I am to have an agency that helps me, works with me when I make mistakes or miscalculations. They're willing to help and assist. They're not willing to follow strictly the letter of the law and try to, hang me out to dry or make me a poster child. That philosophy is so refreshing to have every one of the staff members willing to help. So I wanted to ask you, tell me about your philosophy when you sit on that, because, I have a partisan hat on and I'm not wearing it today, but, but we kind of are who we are sometimes. And so tell me a little bit about your philosophy. I know you said, the laws are very clear. It's my job to uphold the law. But I mean, as on the commission, what is your philosophy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll start by saying I tried not to take it too personally that Frank decided to retire this year right after my appointment was announced. So that's still sort of cause for consternation. Still trying to get over that because Frank has just the most stellar reputation of just about any public servant I've had the good fortune to work with. So we're going to miss him dearly, and it's a true loss. But Senator Reinbold, that's a great question. And the law has both a letter and a spirit. The letter of the law, obviously, is what all of you put forward in writing. The spirit of it, though, is laws are not made to be broken. They're to encourage people not to break them. And when at all possible, when the circumstances are that it's clear that there are ways to discourage people from breaking the law before they do, by working with campaigns, by working with candidates in a proactive manner. I think that it's absolutely, insofar as it's part of the commission's job, to perform that action and to encourage people to stay within the letter of the law as much as possible. I certainly think that there's a proactive element to it.
Okay. And then I know you said that you don't currently represent or work for any candidates, but do you currently work for any Nebraska elected officials?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Andrew? All right, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Senators.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take proponents for Andrew. We'll take opponents for Andrew. We'll take neutral for Andrew. All right, seeing none, we will move on to our next appointee today. Frank, I want you to know I was disappointed. I thought I was going to get us hear you, but.
Well, you'll have plenty of opportunity this session, I believe.
Okay, okay. Well, that's a promise. I'll take it that way. All right. Ed, welcome to the Government Committee.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, Chairman Brewer and members of the committee. My name is Ed Toner, E-D-T-O-N-E-R. Since 2015, I have held the position of Chief Information Officer for the state of Nebraska and head of the Office of the CIO. I was reappointed to the position by Governor Pillen on January 17th of 2023. I have over 25 years of IT management experience in the private and public sectors. While at TD Ameritrade, I directed IT operations strategy formulation and implementation that included the incorporation of 6 successful mergers while earning a certificate as a Six Sigma Black Belt. At First Data, as Director of IT Global Infrastructure and Operations, I led the team of IT architects and performance engineers who modernized 14 front-end authorization platforms. I've also led service transformation projects and teams located in the UK, Slovakia, and in Argentina, resulting in enhanced productivity and quality. I have a varied background, which includes working several years as an industrial engineer in manufacturing, which exposed me to various quality and efficiency programs. I hold a Bachelor of Science degree in industrial distribution from Texas A&M University. During my nearly 8 years as Nebraska State CIO, recognizing that the state's siloed and disparate legacy agency approach could no longer address the growing and changing needs of the citizens and taxpayers, the Office of the CIO looked for a better solution to provide enhanced services through a consolidated IT environment. Nebraska's consolidation is one network, one domain, centralized management of geographically separated data centers, hardware managed by the Office of the CIO, servers located in only the data centers, the 2 data centers managed by the Office of the CIO. Enterprise applications are managed by the Office of the CIO. However, agency applications, or applications that are specific to an agency, are managed by the agency, but the technical infrastructure is managed by the Office of the CIO. Applications that are specific to an agency are managed by the agency business teams, which allows them full control of their line of business. Line of business services consist of those differentiated services core to the strategic mission of each agency. The former decentralized approach to technology came at a much higher expense as IT fails to optimize resources, fosters the duplication and applications, and disparate infrastructure technologies. Consolidation reduced technology resources by 77 FTEs and 16 contractors, eliminated 6,000 square feet of agency-specific data centers. More than 500 servers were eliminated. Agency support positions located outside of the Lincoln area were consolidated into 8 separate service centers with existing staff. This allowed us to locate technical support closer to the customer and gives us the ability to recruit from multiple rural areas of the state. In 2020, the OCIO was presented with the responsibility of transitioning a large number of state teammates to a remote working environment. Because of consolidation, the infrastructure necessary to deliver this responsibility was already in place and already functioning. Since consolidation completion in 2019, we see a steady increase in quality with high availability metrics and high customer satisfaction ratings. I thank you for your time, and at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, Ed, let's see what we have for questions for you. Questions, Senator Lowe.
Thank you, Chairman Brewer, and thank you, Mr. Toner, for being here. And this question may have potential of your position or not, but one of us up here has an iWatch. And he struggles getting this tone to come on. Do you know anything about that?
I know nothing about it because of course, the legislature is totally walled off from us, right? So you are a separate entity, so you have your own IT, and we discourage the use of any type of Apple products.
Thank you very much.
Feel a bit like a criminal. All right.
But I thank you
let's
for the
see
question.
if we have any other questions. Any other questions?
Oh my gosh, thank you, Chairman.
Yes, Senator Conrad.
Hi, nice to see you. Thank you so
Nice.
much for coming in. I just had one question, Mr. Toner. Can you help me to get an understanding about how your position will interface with Governor Pillen's initiative to create kind of a separate broadband director or czar? I'm not exactly sure
Yes.
what the title of the new agency or agency position that he was talking about, which I think makes a lot of sense to bring a significant amount of focus to ensuring we have broadband reliability and access across the state. But can you help me understand how your work would intersect or complement or perhaps be a checks and a balance to that new position?
That is a great question. And I've met with the PSC and others, and we've discussed this. We are more a support organization. So I chair the Rural Broadband Task Force, and I have someone on staff that collects data. So we're really the data arm
Okay.
of what we can supply. We find out where are the areas that don't have connectivity, where are the areas with low levels of connectivity. We also try to find out, what is the pricing? Is it equal? Is there equity across the state? We're responsible for digital equity. And so I hope to be a contributor to that office is what I would assume that my role would be in that newly formed department.
Very good. Thank you. Very cool. Appreciate that.
That was a really good question.
Well, thank you.
Was.
You're hitting on all cylinders this afternoon. All right. Other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you all.
impressive resume.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And have a great afternoon.
All right. We'll have a slight delay to switch out some nameplates here. Hint, hint. Very good.
Look at that.
Jason, welcome back to the Government Committee.
Thank you, Colonel.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. All right. Good afternoon, Colonel Brewer, members of the committee. My name is Jason Jackson, Jason, Jackson. And it's a privilege to be in front of you and have time to talk with you this afternoon, and an honor to have been reappointed as Director of Administrative Services by Governor Pillen. I'm proud to be joined today by my wife, Gina, and our children. This is actually my family's first opportunity to kind of serve as the second house, as it were. So thank you all for making them feel so welcome.
Are they here in opposition?
Don't pose that question to
Line.
me, sir. I don't know how they would answer. But no, we've made Nebraska our home for these past nearly 7 years now, and just feel so fortunate to call Nebraska home. So privileged for the opportunities that the state has afforded us and the relationships and friendships that we've been able to build, which is one of the reasons I'm really grateful for the opportunity to serve in state government and give back to our state and our community, since it's given so much to us. I've spent the majority of my career in public service. I graduated from the Naval Academy and then served in the Navy for 8 years. I'm a veteran of the War on Terrorism and Operations Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. And after my military service, I went into the tech industry in human resources management and operations management. Along the way, I picked up a graduate degree in political science and a law degree, and then returned to public service when I joined Governor Ricketts' staff in 2016 as his Chief Human Resources Officer. That's a role I held for 2 years before being selected to serve as Director of Administrative Services in December of 2018, and subsequently having been confirmed by the legislature on the recommendation of this committee. I am, administrative services generally provides the back office business operations support for state government. Our portfolio is pretty broad. It includes real estate and facilities management, risk management, employee relations and labor negotiations, personnel and human resources management, transportation services, accounting operations, procurement, mail, and surplus property services. So I think my background of kind of generalized operations management and human resources has really prepared me well for the role and has contributed to some of the successes we've enjoyed over the past several years. I'm really proud of what the team has accomplished in recent years. Some particular achievements that I would just highlight for the committee include the promulgation of the state's first ever real estate strategy, which is focused on reducing our commercial real estate spend while creating convenience for our constituents through the creation of one-stop shops and agency co-location. We've also increased the diversity and accessibility of state government. We've increased minority participation in our state workforce by over 30%. We've authored the first ever ADA charter and invested over $3 million in building accessibility over the past several years. We've had enormous success from a labor management perspective, having negotiated several historic labor agreements that have really been win-wins for both labor and management, including significant market-based wage adjustments, but also pay for performance and more managerial discretion about compensation decision-making. We've been focused on efficiency and effectiveness, and through our Center of Operational Excellence, we've trained over 15,000 teammates in Lean Six Sigma principles, led over 900 process improvement initiatives, and saved taxpayers over $100 million. And perhaps most significantly was the opportunity to really bring our operations management expertise to bear alongside the public health response of the pandemic, leading on things like PPE procurement, establishing Test Nebraska, standing up our contact center that led the contact tracing efforts, supporting the pandemic relief funding that was coming into the state, and consulting with our sister agencies on business continuity practices, all of which contributed directly to the state's #1 rating among all states in terms of pandemic response. I've also been very privileged and appreciative of the relationships I've been able to develop over the last several years with members of the legislature and some of the achievements we've enjoyed together. In my first year in state government, I was able to work with Senator Bosselman on LB 639, which extended our veterans hiring preference to active duty military spouses. I had the opportunity to work with then Senator Epke and Senator Albright on reform of the Nebraska State Patrol with LB 791. Your committee counsel, Dick Clark, was heavily involved in that. And Senator Conrad, I suspect you played a role in that as well. And that really increased transparency into our State Patrol internal investigations process, while also strengthening our statewide sexual harassment reporting procedures. I had the opportunity to work with Senator Ben Hansen on bringing Nebraska into alignment with the emerging best practice among states in terms of travel reimbursement for state teammates and bringing Nebraska into a per diem-based reimbursement model. And then last year, I had the opportunity to work with Senator Arch on LB 1037, which will really modernize our procurement practices and take ourselves from a paper and manual-based procurement practice to a digital and electronic practice. And then, of course, Colonel Brewer, perhaps most fun was working with you on LR 271 that designated 2 of our state buildings, the First Nebraska Volunteer Infantry Building and the Chief Standing Bear Justice Administration Building, respectively. And that was a great project that really brings a lot of esteem to some of our buildings here in the Capitol Environs area. So there's a lot of achievements that our team is very proud of, but there's also significant opportunities that are enduring areas of focus. Foremost among those is our state procurement operations. We worked closely with the LR 29 committee that looked into the privatization of child welfare services generally and the St. Francis procurement specifically. And that committee identified a number of opportunities with respect to our state procurement practices. And then subsequent to that, we had an independent study done by a consultant that further identified opportunities examined end-to-end procurement operations and identified a number of opportunities. Foremost among those is basically Nebraska has a very antiquated statutory scheme around how we handle procurement practices that is overly reliant on the lowest responsive bidder. And that's directly contributed to some of our procurement difficulties in recent years.
We worked directly with Speaker Arch on LB 461 that will represent once in a generation comprehensive procurement reform. And look forward to talking to the committee more about that bill when it's up for its hearing next week. The other significant area of opportunity is our accounting division operations. And I do have a couple of exhibits that I thought I would hand out that would just give committee members some context. Just one of each of those. Thank you. We've underperformed our own expectations of ourselves with respect to our annual comprehensive financial report in 2 of the last 3 years. The slide that you're about to see first kind of lays out the timeline of some of the challenges that accounting division has had with respect to the annual comprehensive financial report. And what it shows is I was hired as Director of Administrative Services in December of 2018. And not having an accounting background myself, I did what many of you would probably do if in your own businesses, as you go out and find the best person you can with subject matter expertise in that field. And so I was very fortunate to be able to hire Phil Olson from the Auditor of Public Accounts, who came to us with 10 years of experience in the APA's office directly working on the Aquifer audit. Our first year together as a team, we had a completely clean, unmodified opinion, which is the best that you can do. And then the pandemic hit. And this is where I had a critical leadership mistake. When the pandemic struck, we had $2.4 billion in federal aid that came into the state. Those were new fund management obligations. I didn't scale the team up fast enough to meet that additional operational demand. As a consequence, the team was laser focused on our pandemic response and those fund management obligations. And the blocking and tackling run the business activities like the production of the annual comprehensive financial report was under-resourced. That contributed directly to the adverse audit we had in fiscal year 20. And you can see that we had a disclaimer of opinion from the Auditor of Public Accounts and about 20 billion in errors. That was our first indication that we had significant challenges in accounting division, and we immediately went into an all hands on deck approach to get that fixed and getting our accounting operations and practices up to speed. We leveraged process improvement and performance management. And we did that right away, but it was too late to make a difference on the FY21 audit. The FY20 audit occurred, and we were already halfway into fiscal year 21 at the time that occurred. So although that was our foremost priority, and we threw every available tool at our disposal into that process, it improved things, but didn't make enough of a difference for fiscal year 21. We doubled down. We brought in Deloitte to assist with pre-audit and consultation. And we also staffed up the team to 8 accounting professionals with over 50 years of public finance experience, which is a very niche technical skill. And then the other thing we did to overcome kind of the operational challenge of having a decentralized accounting structure across the state. In other words, all the agencies have their own financial resources. We rely on their work product, aggregate that all together, and that becomes the annual comprehensive report. For the first time this past year, we created a war room type of environment to get all of those people working together. And collectively, those efforts have now borne fruit. If you refer to the bar graph, you can see that kind of shows the trend line in terms of our adjustments that have been made in response to the audit. You see the bad audit in FY20, improvement in FY21. And in the current year, relative to our net position, less than a 1% error rate, which represents our best performance since calendar year 2014. We just got the auditor's opinion earlier this week, and it was a completely unmodified opinion with one exception, and that's an enduring challenge area, and that's the Department of Labor Unemployment Insurance Fund. So we're far from declaring victory. We're not spiking the football. What we want to do, our enduring goal will be a completely unmodified opinion in all areas of our accounting operations with a diminished error rate in every successive year. And so that's kind of, but hopefully these materials in that context gives the committee and legislatures who have been justifiably concerned. We want to own the outcome. We want to be accountable. But hopefully that gives the committee and your colleagues the reassurance that we have the right plan, we have the right team, and we're trending in the right direction with respect to our organizational performance. So that is all I had prepared to share with the committee today. With that, I'd be happy to stop and entertain any questions. Thank you, Colonel.
That was a lot.
That's good.
That's a lot of information. Thank you. All right, let's run around and see if we have questions for you. Senator Lowe.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Director Jackson, for being here and bringing your
Yes, sir.
platoon with you. It's good to see young people in here. I was standing outside the Chief Standing Bear building admiring the new statue that's out there, the sculpture. And you walked up and you had mentioned that you were going to be leaving for a National Guard event. I didn't realize you were still in the service, so thank you for your continued service and your post-service. How's that working out with your position? And again, thank you for continue on with the National Guard.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it, Senator, and thank you for the question. It's working out very well. So I did separate from the military during my first stint of service in 2010. And at that time, we were growing our family, and I was pursuing my graduate studies, and so it just wasn't the right season in my in life. But now it's been an honor to resume my service and put the uniform of the country back on, and particularly with the team at the Nebraska National Guard. It's been a great fit, and it's been very complimentary to my work in state government. You mentioned, and I only recently in December got back from a 4-month stint on active duty. And I wasn't in harm's way, but I was going through basic training and going through the Judge Advocate General's course in Charlottesville, Virginia. And that's my role on the team at the JFHQ as I serve as a judge advocate for the Nebraska Army National Guard. And it's really extremely fun work, very rewarding. Basically, we support soldiers who are about to deploy with things like their wills and their powers of attorney. And if a landlord is giving them a hard time or something like that, we can help them through those types of things. So it's really fun work and very rewarding to help soldiers prepare that are going in harm's way and make sure that they have the reassurance that everything on the home front is all taken care of. But I also appreciate the question because I know there had been some inquiry. There's a statute with respect to agency directors and a prohibition in terms of holding office in other areas, and some concern that that might actually be a bar to military service. And I appreciate Colonel Brewer introducing a bill this year that would address the ambiguity in the law there. Suffice to say, I don't think there's any legal barrier to my service. Obviously, if that statute were construed that way, that would be at odds with USERRA and the federal prohibition against any discrimination in employment for being a member of the Guard and Reserve. And so there's no real legal barrier to my serving in the role, but I nonetheless really appreciate Colonel Brewer, you introducing that bill, because I'd hate for others who weren't aware of their USERRA rights to see that prohibition and think that either they couldn't progress their careers in state government or that that was a barrier to them serving and wearing the uniform of their country. So thank you, Colonel, for introducing that bill.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. And yes, we're moving ahead with that. I don't know how to explain why we would have such a rule that just because you're a director, you couldn't serve. All right, other questions? Yes, Senator Conrad.
Thank you so much, Chairman Brewer. Good to see you again, Director Jackson. And I just wanted to commend you for your thoughtful outreach and candor. As I was transitioning back into legislative service and in preparing for this hearing, I really found it authentic and meaningful, and really appreciate the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. The one thing that will not be a surprise to you as we're doing our work here, but our colleagues are looking at our agendas in our respective committees as well. And so I had a few friends grab us in the hallway who serve in different districts and are assigned to different legislative committees say, oh, you have Director Jackson in, maybe ask him about X, Y, or Z. I'll also direct them to ask you about X, Y, and Z. But I know DAS in particular interfaces with really all state agencies for different purposes and different reasons. And so sometimes I think that you have a more prominent role in, some major issues facing other agencies. Like I'm thinking about, you mentioned your work with the St. Francis issue that was really more squarely, I think, in HHS, but of course DAS was involved in that. And I appreciate you lifting that proactively in your comments. Kind of related there too, I just wanted to provide you an opportunity and try to give you a quick heads up. If you could just give the committee an update about where we are kind of with thinking around the YRTCs, and in particular, I think maybe it goes to your real estate strategy that you had highlighted and mentioned in your opening comment. So I just wanted to give you a chance to respond or update the committee about kind of where we are with that and your thinking.
Yeah, thank you for the question,
Yeah.
Senator. I appreciate it. So generally speaking, when we think about real estate portfolio management, facilities management, my customer is our sister agencies and their programmatic needs. And so what is typical is an agency will tell us, hey, here's our programmatic needs for this respective program. And then we consult with them on how best to meet that need based on whatever their constraints are. So with respect to the YRT specifically, we basically take direction from DHHS in terms of having them tell us, hey, here's what we need to best serve this population that we're trying to care for. And then we come alongside them to try to provide the facilities and the infrastructure that best achieves that objective. I think, Senator, your question went to some of the recent changes with respect to the Geneva campus in particular.
That's right. Yes.
And so that's been basically something that we've been working on for the past 18 months or so in partnership with DHHS. And again, that's where DHHS makes a program decision about where they need to be and what type of infrastructure they need to support their clients. They made a decision that Geneva was not where they needed to be to serve the young women in their youth in those rehabilitative centers. And as a consequence, basically the Geneva campus became under-leveraged once that programmatic decision was made. There still are some positions there. They're predominantly Medicaid call center type of positions, I believe. But it's definitely been an under-leveraged asset and frankly, at this point, a liability to the state. And so once DHHS made the decision that the program needed to be elsewhere, that's where we insert ourselves and try to provide expertise in terms of, okay, what's the best thing from a real estate perspective? That campus operations costs are between $700,000 and $1 million a year. And so that's kind of the liability of keeping that open, is that's the cost. And whereas, if we were to put, again, the positions being what they are now, basically office workers or contact center type of jobs, there's much more affordable real estate where those types of workers can be situated that would reduce the taxpayer burden. And so that's kind of where we come to bear on it. We had hopes, so the campus perhaps 12 to 18 months ago was declared vacant in excess to the state's needs. We had hopes of being able to forge some sort of public-private partnership to keep that going. There had been conversations with Cedars and the city of Geneva about trying to find some sort of purpose for those facilities. Ultimately, those conversations didn't bear fruit. And so that was where the decision was made. Hey, if we can't transfer this property to another public entity, then we need to divest the state of it, because it is just a liability that costs the taxpayers, many hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so the property went for auction, and basically where I would characterize the circumstances of the property now is it's basically analogous to an escrow situation.
Oh, okay.
And so it still is the state's property. There was a bidder that prevailed, and basically we're kind of in an escrow situation until that sale is finalized.
That's dynamite. Thank you so much. I appreciate the update, and I'll make sure to draw our attention, our colleagues' attention to that as well. But I know we're very interested in getting an update there. The other, just not a question, final point. Director Jackson, I really appreciate your comments in your opening in addressing the challenges that you faced as a leader and that your department has faced during, a lot of the headache and heartache that came along with the COVID pandemic and the unexpected challenges that I think we all found ourselves in, but of course, state government as well. And I just really appreciate the candor in addressing kind of how it happened, how you dealt with it once you identified an issue, and then kind of helped us to get a good understanding about kind of where we are today. I mean, I think that's what we want from our leadership is, of course, not to have a standard of perfection, but to have a standard of responsiveness and candor and responsibility. And I think that approach is refreshing in our political environment that I think is sometimes just so divisive. So I really, really appreciate it. And I'm happy to follow up with you in your office later, but as a casual citizen kind of watching the headlines play out before I returned to the legislature, I was trying to just get an understanding about, you know, the errors in the audit itself. It's not as if the state lost $20 million, right? I mean, can you just give me just a really general sense about kind of what that audit really was illustrating for us as stakeholders?
Yeah, thank you for the question and for the kind words. And just in response to that, I would say I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm glad those audits happened. That certainly is, but I would say that as a consequence, our state accounting operations are much stronger today by virtue of having had the opportunity to get those lessons learned. And what's more is I'm a better leader today for having had the opportunity to learn from some of those decisions as well. So the annual comprehensive financial report is basically our work product to you, the legislature, that captures all of the state's finance and accounting operations. And so when that report is audited, it's important that it be accurate. It's important that policymakers like yourselves have the right information. And so we take it very seriously, but those mistakes represent basically accounting errors that are subsequently adjusted and corrected once the auditors identify them. They don't represent misappropriation, missing money, fraud, or the like. So that I don't say that to in any way diminish its importance, but taxpayers can be reassured that this isn't a reflection of missing money or anything like that.
That's perfect. That was my understanding. I appreciate the confirmation.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions? All right. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Okay. Now, let's see. We'll start with any testifiers in the proponent. Come on up. Tony, welcome to the Government Committee.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Chairman Brewer and members of the committee. My name is Anthony Goins, spelled ANTHONYGOINS, and I'm the Director of the Department of Economic Development, and I'm here to testify in support of Jason Jackson's confirmation as DAS Director. Jason and I have been colleagues since I joined state government in 2019. Coming from the business world, I can say that what I value about Jason is that he has made DAS an organization that values his customers. He supports agencies like mine as his customers and helps us to overcome obstacles of government bureaucracy so we can serve our citizens. Me and my peers have come to regard Jason as a trusted subject matter expert for all issues pertaining to state government. If we need something done, we call Jason and he gets it done right away. I also want to share that I had an opportunity to work on a very special project that reflects his leadership and reflects his character. After the George Floyd murder, I went to engage with the citizens of North Omaha community to have open dialogue and identify opportunities for the community, leadership, and business and state government to work together to improve the quality of life, business opportunities, and harmonious relationships. When we needed a facilitator to broker those conversations and help us get consensus, it was Jason Jackson that was hand-selected for that task. Jason's values and style enabled him to quickly build trust and move the working group into a positive direction. One of the significant achievements of that working group was Jason's creation of the Procurement Concierge Program within the Department of Administrative Services. The program works with small businesses and minority-owned businesses to overcome obstacles of state government contracting, creating more opportunities for Black businesses to do business with the state. Because of Jason's character, leadership, and high level of support he extends to other agencies and state government, I urge you to support his confirmation. That concludes my remarks, and I would be happy to take any question.
All right, thank you, sir. See if we have questions for you. Questions to my right, questions to my left. None. Thank you for your testimony. And I sometimes hate hanging out with you because you are the sharpest dresser I know.
Well,
you always look perfect.
Well, thank you, Carl.
And I like your haircut.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
All right, next testifier, please. Welcome to the Government Committee.
Good afternoon, Senator Brewer, members of the committee. My name is Justin Hubley, Justin-Hubly. I'm the Executive Director of the Nebraska Association of Public Employees, AFSCME Local 61. Our union represents over 8,000 frontline state employees who work for more than 40 different code and non-code agencies in all 93 counties in Nebraska. It might be a little surprising for some of you to see me here testifying in support of Director Jackson. I'd like to offer a few reasons why. Our relationship on paper is adversarial. I represent the frontline state workers in their contract negotiations, and Director Jackson and his agency represent the governor's interests. From day one, when Director Jackson took over DAS in 2019, I was invited to his office and we met with each other and had a pretty candid conversation. I'm a problem solver, he's a problem solver, and that even though our relationship on paper needed to be adversarial, personally it would be centered around respect. I've always felt listened to, and we've solved a lot of problems together over the course of the past 4 years. The problems that we've solved, as many of you are aware, state government is incredibly short-staffed right now, and after a decade of not investing in state employees, we've made solid progress in that. And I think our relationship that we set 4 years ago with Director Jackson has helped us to have candid conversations with each other's best interests in mind, because that's the best interest of Nebraskans, who we all serve. And so he has my strongest recommendation for your appointment because of the respect and dignity that he's treated me with, as well as our members. I look forward to continuing to work with him because we still have a laundry list of problems that we need to look at. I think many times when I call him, he probably thinks I'm crazy, but he takes my call and he listens. And I'm certainly very appreciative of that. I've been doing this work for 18 years now, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say I've worked with countless administrators and state government, local government, school superintendents. And one quality that I don't see as often as you would think you should see is somebody who cares about our country and cares about giving back to its community. And what I've seen Director Jackson in his personal life and his professional life is that he cares passionately about our country. And I think that's a quality that we should all look forward to, and he certainly has my admiration for that. So Senator Brewer knows, and I see a couple of familiar faces, but new faces to this committee this session. Senator Brewer knows I usually come with solutions to this committee, so I have a very simple solution for you today. It's to confirm Director Jackson's appointment. I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you for your testimony. I really mean it. All right. Any questions? That means you did a good job. Okay, next testifier, please, as a proponent. Or proponent. Okay, good. Just trying to make sure we're clear. It hurt to ask. Welcome to the Government Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. Hi, my name is Michael Chipman. I'm the president of the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge 88. You spell my name Michaelchipman. I am the president of the union that represents correctional officers, the security staff at the Health and Human Services and at the youth facilities, as well as Capitol Security and at the military facility here in Lincoln. It is my pleasure to support Governor Pillen's reappointment of Mr. Jason Jackson as Director of the Department of Administrative Services. I've worked with Mr. Jackson concerning issues pertaining to FOP 88. Mr. Jackson has always been willing to hear and discuss our viewpoints concerning the safety of our members. He is dedicated to making Nebraska state government efficient and providing opportunities for our members to be successful in employment. He has shown time and time again that he respects the dangerous work that our members do. Having directly observed these characteristics and skills during our labor negotiation, Mr. Jackson has proven to be qualified and deserving to continue to lead DAS. Although we were on separate sides of the table, Mr. Jackson was always fair and willing to look at our issues from different perspectives, ensuring a positive outcome for all parties. One thing that I wanted my editor to put in here, and he didn't, is that one thing that I've always admired about Mr. Jackson is that he's willing to do whatever it takes to get the work done for both parties. A good example is that the bargaining before this last, he worked until 9 o'clock at night with us, and I know a lot of state employees say 5 p.m. and we're time to go home. And so he's always been very dedicated. He works very hard. He does amazing work. We really do appreciate it. And so throughout the bargaining process, Mr. Jackson demonstrated understanding of the value of our teammates, their public service, and public safety. With his assistance, we were able to fill over 400 vacancies within the Department of Correctional Services. Mr. Jackson continues to do his part in making Nebraska the great state that it is. He is a truly dedicated public servant. I support Mr. Jackson's reappointment to director as DAS. Any questions?
All right, thank you. See about questions. Questions? Yes, Senator Lowe.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chipman, for being here. It seems strange that agencies are coming in favor of Mr. Jackson, but it must mean he's doing good work.
He does. He obviously has the state's interest to look into his, and that he does that. But he also realizes that you can't serve the state interest without, taking care of the front line as well. I mean, he does that very good about doing both. It's a difficult job. I wouldn't want his job. So,
thank you.
All right, and just so you know, we're still working to get you those vests. So.
Good. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional proponent testifiers? Come on up. Welcome to the Government Committee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I am Nicole Reiner, Nichole. I am a retired military officer, current military spouse, and former state employee for the Nebraska Department of Economic Development. I've had the privilege of working with Director Jackson on several initiatives, and I am here to testify in support of his reappointment and confirmation as the Director of Department of Administrative Services. As a veteran and military spouse, my role with DED included several veteran-related initiatives that are near and dear to my heart. Without the support of Director Jackson and his department, progress on many of these initiatives would not have been possible. I've observed firsthand the lengths Director Jackson has gone to and the collaboration that he has encouraged among other departments and agencies to make Nebraska a top-tier veteran-friendly state. Since becoming the Director of Administrative Services, Director Jackson has been a driving force behind some of Nebraska's most successful and promising programs that will continue to drive economic success for the state, veterans, and veteran families for years to come. Some of these include partnering with Director Hilgert to merge the DHHS Division of Veterans Homes with the Department of Veterans Affairs so that veterans have an in-state one-stop shop for all of their benefits. I cannot stress enough how welcoming that is. Since retiring from the Navy, I found that many of the Department of Veterans Affairs, both within the state and federal organizations, don't talk to each other. So having, at least at the state level, all of those in one location has been tremendous. He's also negotiated pay raises for staff employed at the veterans' homes across the state that have helped to ensure that the residents of the homes get and continue to receive the best possible care. Through Director Jackson's work on LB 639 and the Military Spouse Transition Program, spouses of service members stationed in Nebraska have had opportunities to continue their careers with less disruption. This is a program that I witnessed firsthand when I was stationed at STRATCOM, and many of the military members that were assigned to me, their spouses were nurses or teachers, and they were able to continue to progress in their careers despite having to move to another state. Further, at the beginning of 2020, only a handful of businesses across the state were enrolled in the DoD Skill Bridge program that assists transitioning veterans through internships to create a more smooth transition from military to civilian life. Director Jackson made it a priority to work with other agencies to get enrolled in this. And as a result, as well as Director Goins, less than 2 years later, every state agency and hundreds of businesses across the state are now participants. This helps to ensure that veteran talent is retained within the state, and it has also recruited veteran talent from everywhere in the world. Most recently, Director Jackson launched a second service recognition program for state employees that annually recognizes veterans and military reservists who have continued their careers in public service with a challenge coin in honor of serving their country. As a fellow shipmate, I appreciate the mentorship and guidance that he has given me as I transitioned from military to civilian life and went from a dual military household to a military spouse. I know that Nebraska's veterans and military personnel have a strong advocate in Director Jackson, and I know that he will continue making great steps towards Nebraska and its initiative to be a #1 state for veterans and their families, while both on active duty and post-transition. I'd like to give him my strongest personal recommendation and encourage you to support his nomination. Thank you, and I look forward to any questions.
Thank you. And thanks for putting all these links at the end. This is quick and handy, and sometimes.
I cannot take credit for that one, sir.
No, well, it's still handy to have
Right,
there. So
absolutely.
Appreciate it. Does anybody have questions for you? Questions? All right. Thank you for your testimony. Next, public comment. Welcome to the Government Committee.
Good afternoon, Chairman Brewer and members of the committee. My name is Brian Tuma, B-R-Y-A-N-T-U-M-A, and I'm here to testify in support of Director Jackson's confirmation. My work experience includes approximately 32 years in law enforcement, culminating as the superintendent for law enforcement and public safety with the Nebraska State Patrol from 2005 until 2011. After a brief stint in the private sector, I returned to state government and was appointed to serve as the assistant director for the Nebraska Emergency Management Agency from 2014 till 2021. And during my time at NEMA, the state of Nebraska was confronted with unprecedented challenges, including a historic flood in 2019, followed by the pandemic in 2020. In addition, a number of other natural disaster events and wildfires required NEMA to work directly with Director Jackson and his team at Administrative Services. Without Jason's help, we would not have been able to overcome those challenges as well as we did. During the response to the flooding, Jason dedicated procurement and accounting resources to NEMA to help our staff expedite support for communities impacted by this disaster. As NEMA transitioned to recovery efforts, the agency was required to address staffing and project management strategies. Jason worked directly with his contract and personnel team members to find solutions for those issues. Jason's involvement during the response to the pandemic was even more hands-on. Jason was instrumental in organizing the logistic and operations elements necessary to support NEMA, while DHHS managed the public health elements of the pandemic response. Jason and his team took the lead in procuring personal protective equipment for healthcare workers around the state, established the Test Nebraska program, so all Nebraskans had access to free and quick testing results, and quickly set up contact tracing operations to mitigate the spread of the virus within communities. Additionally, DAS was directly engaged with the monumental task to administer $2.4 million in federal relief funding allocated to Nebraska. And finally, DAS fulfilled a critical role by partnering with all state agencies on their respective business continuity plans. Jason's operational management expertise provided a key voice in the room as we managed through those emergencies. And Nebraska came through those challenges in part due to Jason's leadership. Nebraska and Governor Pillen would be well served to continue to have Jason's operational leadership capabilities in charge of DAS. I strongly support his confirmation. Thank you, and I would take any questions.
All right, thank you, Brian. See if we got questions. So you were in your current position for both the pandemic and for the bomb cyclone?
So during my tenure at NEMA, yeah, we went back to back. Flood in 2019 and then 2020 with
And then
the
you had the, I guess, ice storm that almost caused us to lose power.
Yes.
You don't
And
buy many lottery
wildfires.
tickets, do you?
Yeah, I'm a bad guy to hang around with. Bad things happen.
Just out of curiosity, this morning when we were confirming on Colonel Boddick, were you at White Clay in 1999?
No, I never did go to White Clay. No.
Sometime you should come by.
Yeah, well, I did go up there with Attorney General Bruning, and we did some visits. But if you're referencing when we had
When you had most of the state patrol come there for a
yeah,
couple
the civil
weeks.
unrest, no, I was not there.
Oh, well, we can't blame you for everything. Well, you need to come back sometime. It's a new place.
Yep.
It's turned into just a little village and a nice
That's
place
good.
to go visit.
That's really good.
All right, thank you for your
All right.
testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional proponent testifiers? Any opponent testifiers? Anybody here to testify in the neutral? All right, well, with that, we will read in any letters. No letters. So with that, we will close our appointment hearing and our hearings for the day. And thank everyone for your time and coming.